Thanks for joining us on WTHR Plus for our special on the Delphi murders case. Just a couple months shy of 8 years from when Abby Williams and Libby German disappeared and were later found murdered near the Monon High Bridge in Delphi, the man convicted of killing them is being sentenced. Richard Allen was found guilty of the killings by a jury after a nearly 3-week trial. Allen, now in his 50s, faces a sentence of somewhere between 45 and 130 years in prison. Here now is a look at how this case developed since that cold February day in 2017. On February 13th, 2017, Libby and Abby disappeared. The next day, their bodies were found.
The hope among hundreds of searchers turned to heartbreak. Well before authorities announced that 2 bodies were found, the faces and tears of firemen, lawmen, and volunteers told the tragic outcome.
We are investigating this as a crime scene. We suspect foul play. We have not made positive identification of the 2 bodies.
The bodies were found shortly after noon outside of town along the banks of Deer Creek, about 3/4 of a mile upstream from the teenagers' last location. A Snapchat photo taken by Libby German put her and her friend Abby Williams on the abandoned Monon High Bridge early Monday afternoon. They were enjoying a day off from school. The pair never arrived at a location a relative was supposed to pick them up.
It's been a long several hours. It's played tremendously on the emotions of the community.
So if you can group up, like somebody's got a pickup truck or something.
Hundreds of volunteers joined firefighters and police from across the county. They searched and researched a 20-square-mile area, walking through creek banks, the remote woods, wide fields, and buildings. Many of the volunteers know the girls and their families.
Yeah, we do take it personally. We don't know what's happened here.
Hours before the bodies were found, we spoke with Libby's grandfather, Mike Patty.
Very, very good kids. I mean, they're sports oriented. That's their relationship together. They play a lot of sports together, volleyball, softball, baseball, whatever it is.
Investigators wanting to protect the evidence are releasing few details. The presumed murders occurred in a popular, well-used hiking area.
Should people in the community be afraid right now?
Delphi Police Chief Stephen Mullen.
I think people are smart enough in our community to draw their own conclusions about what they should feel and shouldn't feel.
A day after that, on February 15th, police revealed images of the suspected killer.
Here's the image police want the public to see. Not calling him a person of interest, but someone police want to talk to because he was on the same trail as the murdered teenagers at about the same time.
Look like anybody that you've seen in the area living close to the trail?
No.
Same question police have been asking. We saw them up and down country roads near the historic bridge and trail the 2 13-year-olds were walking around the time they were murdered Monday afternoon.
Just wanting to know if you'd seen any strange people, you know. Maybe that's where I seen it.
Police not only want to find out who this man is and whether he was seen near the girls Monday afternoon, police also want to talk to anybody who parked in the High Bridge Trailhead parking lot between 1 and 5 p.m. Monday. It's critical they call police.
We're going to get to the bottom of this. We feel confident, and we're going to do everything we can within our resources to reach justice in this situation.
The Carroll County Sheriff, after autopsies, confirmed the identities of the 2 13-year-olds, Libby German and Abby Williams. But to protect the investigation, police not yet releasing the cause of death or whether the girls died in the same way.
Did you recover either of their cell phones at the scene?
We cannot comment on that right now.
At least one of the victims had a cell phone and posted photos to social media before she died. It's unclear if this picture was taken by the girls.
There went I don't know.
A couple more police officers going by?
They've been pretty much blocking the road all day and keep people out of there.
February 22nd, they release a recording of the alleged killer's voice saying, "Down the hill." In July of 2017, police released a sketch of the alleged killer.
It's basically just a clear picture of his face compared to what you saw down below. We've got the information out there, the pictures out there. Now we got this composite that we feel that is the same. We feel it is the same person, and we just want to make sure that people realize that picture is this person. We're hoping, and that they can get that picture and take that picture and get us some information on a possible suspect.
Then, nearly 2 years later, in April of 2019, state police released an updated sketch and additional audio. On October 26, 2022, Richard Allen was arrested and on the 28th charged. Police announced Allen's arrest in Libby and Abby's murders 3 days later.
I'd like to speak directly to Anna, Mike, Becky, Kelsey, your extended families, along with the entire Delphi community that certainly has grown and now includes our nation and even many countries around the world. I am proud to report to you that today, actually last Friday, was the day, and an arrest has been made.
November 3rd, Richard Allen is transferred to the Westville Correctional Facility, a state prison in northwest Indiana. On November 29th, a redacted probable cause is released.
The probable cause affidavit says Abby and Libby were found dead in the woods less than a quarter mile from the Monon High Bridge, and there was a .40 caliber unspent round found between the victims' bodies, less than 2 feet away from Libby German. Investigators first spoke to Richard Allen back in 2017, and at that time, Allen told investigators he was on the trails by the Monon High Bridge between 1:30 and 3:30 on the day of the murders. The PC did not say why investigators spoke to him back in 2017. Then, last month on October 13th, investigators interviewed Allen again. According to the PC, Allen again said he was on the Monon High Bridge to watch the fish. He said he parked his car on the side of an old building and was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hood. Investigators say that matches the clothes worn by the man who Libby captured in this video on the day of the murder. Last month, Allen also told investigators he owns firearms. That same day, police executed a search warrant at his Delphi home and recovered jackets, boots, knives, and firearms, including a Sig Sauer model P226 .40 caliber pistol. He told investigators he never allowed anyone to use or borrow that firearm. Investigators sent that gun to the Indiana State Police Crime Lab for analysis, and it was determined the unspent round located within 2 feet of Libby's body had been cycled through Richard M. Allen's gun. Then, on October 26th, state police again spoke to Allen, and when asked about the unspent bullet, he did not have an explanation of why the bullet was found between the bodies. He again admitted that he was on the trail but denied knowing Abby or Libby and denied any involvement in their murders. 1 day later, Allen was charged with 2 counts of murder and has been in custody ever since.
September 20th, Allen's attorneys submitted a filing alleging the girls' deaths were part of an Odinist ritual sacrifice and accused detectives of ignoring or intentionally suppressing evidence for years.
The document filed in Carroll County Court claims the real killers are members of a pagan religion called Odinism. And defense attorneys say the crime scene was filled with symbols linked to Odinistic rituals, suggesting the teenagers were killed as part of a ritual sacrifice. The document names people who the defense claims are Odinites and should be prime suspects, some already interviewed by police. 13 News is not naming them because they were not arrested and charged, and we're also not sharing many new details of the crime scene because they're too graphic to broadcast. The defense team argues Richard Allen is not in any way connected to Odinism, something investigators downplayed when they obtained a search warrant. They also claim the sheriff intentionally concealed evidence from the judge and lied about other evidence in order to get the search warrant that eventually led to Allen's arrest. Defense attorneys now want the judge to dismiss evidence collected from Allen's home, including a gun that allegedly matched an unspent bullet police found near the teenage victims. If that evidence is suppressed, that would be a huge win for Allen.
That there will be no evidence of a handgun, and that would make it extremely difficult to tie him to the crime scene.
Shay Hughes is a deputy public defender in Tippecanoe County. He says this huge document is clearly an attempt to share Allen's defense with the public, especially after a court hearing earlier this summer revealed Allen had confessed to the murders during a jailhouse phone call. The defense claims Allen was pressured into making that false confession by prison guards who they claim are Odinites and who threaten the defendant, a direct contrast to the prosecutor's claim that Allen is a confessed murderer.
I think this is kind of their opportunity to rebut that, that essentially there's somebody else out there that committed these allegations.
Now that Allen's defense is out in the open, it will be up to a judge to decide whether important evidence was obtained legally and whether it can be presented to a jury.
They never gave up hope or stopped praying, telling themselves with every day that passed.
We still keep positive that today could be the day.
Today's the day.
That's the phrase the families of Libby German and Abby Williams said to themselves every day for almost 6 years, believing that one day they'd be saying it after investigators arrested a person responsible for the murders of Abby and Libby. That day finally came when police called them to say they had a person in custody.
That's why we said never stop searching anywhere, because we didn't know where he was.
Libby's grandparents, Mike and Becky Patty, spoke Monday following a news conference where Indiana State Police announced they had arrested Richard Allen, a longtime Delphi resident who worked at the local CVS, charging him with the girls' murders.
I don't know the gentleman personally at all.
Turns out, though, the Pattys did have contact with Allen, confirming that at some point since the murders, he had processed photos for them at CVS, but didn't charge them.
That is accurate.
Okay, and that he didn't charge the family when they came in to claim the photos?
That is correct.
The interaction between these grandparents and the man now accused of killing their granddaughter and her friend Abby. Confirmation about what investigators and even the families have believed at times over the years, that the killer was hiding in plain sight.
I feel very strongly that there's a very good chance that it was somebody from the area that knew this area at one time.
That's Abby's mom, Anna Williams, speaking to 13 News 4 years after the girls' murders. Williams chose not to talk after police announced the recent arrest of Allen, but she's spoken several times in the past about the loss of her only child.
My heart's still breaking.
That's Williams just 6 months after the girls' deaths. Back then, holding on to the hope that an arrest would come at any time.
I'd like to be able to have a little bit of happiness come Christmas time this year, knowing that nobody else is ever going to have to go through what we went through, and that this person isn't still out there.
But Christmas that first year came and went, with no breaks in the case. What followed were days, weeks, and then years of what should have been other milestones in Abby and Libby's lives. Learning to drive, going to the prom, graduating high school. All moments never realized.
As tough as their first day of school, everybody is feeling what we're feeling as a group.
Social media, the posts, the kids going to prom, or, the various things that kids do, and you get their license and they post pictures of it, well, we didn't get to enjoy that, and Libby didn't get to partake and have that.
Instead, every year around the time of the girls' deaths, the families held a food drive. They also built a park in Abby and Libby's memory.
I think of Libby's laugh every morning, and I imagine all of the really great things that she would be doing right now.
Libby's older sister, Kelsey, was the one who dropped the girls off at the trail that day and was the last person to see Abby and Libby alive.
That's something I live with every day.
Kelsey has spoken several times over the years about the loss of her little sister.
You have a lot of regret in that, and that is also part of the reason why I keep pushing so hard.
For Kelsey, that push included studying forensics and psychology at Purdue.
I have a mission now. That mission is to get this case solved.
But even as 5 years passed with still no answers, the families of Abby and Libby continued to push forward, getting up every day, knowing the person responsible for the murders was still out there, continuing to share the girls' stories and their journey through the grief of losing them, hoping at some point someone would call in the one tip that would help solve the case.
We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to keep doing what we're doing, but we have to. We have to keep looking for justice and finding justice, and we're just going to keep pushing forward and doing this every year that we have to.
Finally, last week, it seemed like the first step towards finding that justice for Abby and Libby had arrived. Their families had a face and a name, Richard M. Allen, to put with the nightmares that have kept them up at night for the past 5.5 years.
I don't feel like I thought I would. I've always said that I would be screaming on the rooftops, but we're not. It's sad. While there's somebody that's been arrested, our lives for 5.5 years have been in a search, and that's what we've done. Tonight, you get up and it's like, oh, we're not doing that anymore. So we're all just kind of feeling our way and figuring out what our purpose is now. What do we do next? How do we help?
The answers to those questions will likely be answered in the coming days and months.
This is another chapter in this whole story that in our lives.
A chapter that's still being written to a story that started on a cold February day when the families of Abby Williams and Libby German learned monsters aren't just the stuff of make-believe. Sometimes they might look like the person walking towards you on a bridge in the woods.
There had been a contentious battle between the judge and Allen's attorneys throughout the years leading to the trial. That actually led to the Indiana Supreme Court getting involved and issuing a ruling in January of 2024.
On Thursday, the Chief Justice of Indiana's Supreme Court said the trial judge should not have kicked Richard Allen's original attorneys off the case.
There's not been these findings with regard to incompetence. There's a lot of words out there, but let him have his attorney. Get this case back. Let him have his attorneys. He wants to privately hire them.
So that means Andrew Baldwin and Brad Rosie are reinstated as court-appointed public defenders. Allen's civil attorney sent 13 News a reaction. Attorney Kara Wenicky says, on behalf of Richard Allen, Mark Lehman and I are very pleased with the court's order today and with how quickly the court issued a decision. I spoke with Rick's wife earlier, and she is happy and relieved that Rick's attorneys have been reinstated. Another big development on Thursday. The prosecutor filed amended charges against Richard Allen, 2 counts of felony murder and 2 counts of kidnapping, in addition to the 2 counts of murder.
New charges suggest is that Mr. Allen did not have to literally be involved in killing the victims in this case. He could have simply been involved in their kidnapping, which resulted in their death.
So I asked our legal experts if the amended charges give us any hints of what the prosecutor thinks may have happened to Abby and Libby nearly 7 years ago.
There is certainly now room to wonder whether they believe that there were other actors involved. Because essentially, again, with these charges, what they're saying is, jurors, you don't have to find that Richard Allen literally killed these girls. You just have to find that he was involved in the commission of the felony that resulted in their death.
It was about 2,800 days since Abby Williams and Libby German disappeared near the Monon High Bridge in Delphi and the start of the trial for Richard Allen. The focus for the prosecution and defense was on trying to convince the 12 jurors, and that meant hearing very different versions of what happened in Delphi. Here's a brief overview of what happened in court. Day one, the prosecution told the jury during opening arguments its case centered around the man on the Monon High Bridge, an unspent bullet found at the scene of the murders of Abby and Libby. The defense claimed the prosecution had a faulty timeline and evidence. The first witnesses called were family members of the girls who recounted their final moments and final conversation with the girls before they went missing. Libby telling her grandma, "I'll be okay." The second day included testimony from those who searched for the girls, located evidence, and the man who found their bodies, who at first thought they were mannequins before realizing what he was seeing. Day three, jurors were shown graphic images of the crime scene, the lacerations to the girls' throats, and testimony about a .40 caliber cartridge found under the leaves near the girls' bodies. Day four involved police testimony about the work done to recover data from Libby's cell phone. Day five, the jury heard difficult testimony from the doctor who performed autopsies on Libby and Abby. Day six, the jury heard testimony that Richard Allen called a tip line early in the investigation to say he had been on the Monon trails the day of the murders. A DNR officer testified Allen told him he was on the trails between 1:30 and 3:30 the day the girls went missing. Following the interview, the DNR officer said Allen was cleared. A file clerk then testified how she found Allen's file in 2022 under an incorrect name and marked cleared. She brought Allen's name back to the attention of police. Day seven focused on the shell casing found at the scene and if the science connecting it to Allen holds up. Day eight turned to police testimony claiming Allen was agitated while talking to an investigator before his arrest and that he showed, quote, subtle signs of deception. Day nine included testimony that Allen's DNA was not found at the crime scene or on the bullet cartridge. Libby and Abby's DNA was not found on any evidence taken from Allen's home. Day 10 brought the jury Allen's reported confessions while awaiting his trial in prison. Allen was alleged to have confessed on multiple occasions, even writing a note that started by saying, "I am ready to officially confess to killing Abby and Libby." The following day of the trial, a prison psychologist testified Allen admitted to details only the killer would know. Day 12 of the trial came with the jury hearing Allen confess to the killings on the phone to his wife while he was in prison. The prosecution then rested its case. On day 13 of the trial, the defense launched in with questioning investigators in the trial and that police first thought more than one person was involved in the killings. The defense showed videos to the jury on day 14 of the trial that showed Allen in prison. Those videos continued on day 15 and showed Allen eating his own feces and banging his head against the wall. The defense used it to show Allen's mental state when he was making confessions about the killings. Day 16 had expert testimony for the defense that someone inserted a headphone jack into Libby German's phone on the evening the girls disappeared. It was then pulled out about 5 hours later. Defense experts also attacked the science used to link the shell casing found at the scene to Allen's gun. Day 17, the defense rested its case, and closing arguments were heard the next day before the case went to the jury. On the third full day of deliberations, the jury came back finding Allen guilty on all 4 counts for the murders of Libby German and Abby Williams. His sentencing is set for December 20th, and we'll have coverage of those developments right here on WTHR+.